Welcome back to the show, everybody. Check out these headlines we have here for you. Saudi Arabia will join BRICS, but check it out. Don't go anywhere. We may have just seen the largest, most incredible use case and demand for XRP created on the planet. I'll explain. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, $1.09 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 1.5%. Bitcoin 25,900 plus, Ethereum 1643 and change, Tether market cap's 82.7 billion. Number 5 spot is 51 cent XRP. We're off by 2.6 in the 24-hour and 10.4 on the 7-day. How much longer will you be able to get Ripple private equity on this platform, ladies and gentlemen? 230,000 users on this platform. This is no joke. How much longer will it be before Ripple makes an IPO? Now, people will say, well, I've got some or whatever, but I'm telling you right now, the window is closing. And if you're going to get some more, you better do it, because there is no email that comes out and says, hey, in the next 3 months, this will be the end of it. You just wake up one day and you can't get any more. So don't mess around and click the link for link 2 and get yourself some Ripple private equity while it's still available before I get the rest of it. Right here we see breaking. GateHub puts this out and says new wallet protect plan. You can cover up to $1 million in cryptocurrency assets per wallet. It also has fraud protection and a new multi-signature feature to the wallet itself. This sounds like a solution for the masses, ladies and gentlemen, and that's something we want to pay attention to. Think of this for a moment. In the early days of stock issuance, you got a paper issue of the stock and you went home and put it in your safe, right? Over time, you don't do that anymore. Now you buy that at Fidelity or wherever you purchase it, and then it's held in a third-party custody solution. You don't hold those shares. And I'm not saying that that'll change. What I'm suggesting is in the early days of this, which we are still early, we have all been taking risk like no one else really will want to in this world. That's why there's only a select few of us in this space this early. You're on exchanges, not sure if you can trust the exchanges. You're worried about hacks. You're on wallets, and then this wallet goes down, and that wallet goes down, and this one has a back door we didn't know about, right? All of those things. And now we're getting to a place where we know that Zum Wallet and GateHub have built on and off ramps to the euro. We got USD coming online too. I mean, major currencies tying us into the traditional fiat world. This is where it happens, those on and off ramps. And now we see through this, which I'm going to click on here very quickly so I can open this article. I read it earlier. But I just want to show you this Wallet Protect, and it's coming from Coin Covers, the name I wanted to remember here, which is a third-party service developed to partner up with GateHub for this wallet protection. Pretty remarkable where we're going. These things this is, like I said, when I see this, I see solutions for the future. Now, let's turn our eyes and attention towards this very quickly. We know BRICS has announced new members, and we know that Saudi Arabia is one of those members looking to join in January 1st of 2024 in just a few months. And out of the 6 members of the BRICS are in the top 9 largest oil-producing countries in the world. Here is a map that really shows it. It says BRICS, the new composition of BRICS coalition, will control 80% of world oil production. Think it's funny? Think it's a joke now? Because it isn't. With the addition of Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Iran to the BRICS coalition, the union will be able to control the lion's share of the world's oil production. Now, couple that with understanding that Saudi Arabia joining BRICS is probably the largest signal you're ever going to get that they are pulling away from the petrodollar agreement, which elevates the U.S. dollar status as a global reserve currency. So where will that good faith come from? What are they going to go to next? The only reason we're on the petrodollar agreement is because they abandoned the gold standard. So something has to underpin the value of the dollar other than we say so, whether they like it or not. Well, let's look at this very quickly before we move on to that notion again. Don't forget, we're already in a coexisting phase, ladies and gentlemen, according to SWIFT, in the transition to ISO 20022. Started in March of 23, and it'll run in a coexisting phase all the way to 2026 of November. But that doesn't mean that it won't be fully complete before then. It will just be open in a coexisting phase. That means they will run parallel side by side. Okay, now let's look at this. This is an older clip when Brad Garlinghouse went and sat and gave a presentation to the IMF and the Swiss National Bank on XRP. I promise you, we're going to land this plane today. Stay with me and take a listen to this.
Competition because it requires capital to get it there. Our view in the future is you don't have to have this pre-funding, and instead you can use a digital asset to have global liquidity on demand. Now, we build upon a tech stack, an open source technology called XRP. XRP originally was built by some engineers who had seen some of the flaws of Bitcoin and the challenges of scalability around Bitcoin. Where Bitcoin today, on a per transaction basis, it's rather slow and rather expensive. XRP is very, very fast, about 1,000 times faster per transaction and 1,000 times cheaper per transaction. The other dynamic, of course, of correspondent banking is some of the more quote unquote exotic currencies, exotic corridors have been left to kind of stand on their own. The liquidity in digital assets could be applied to actually make that much more democratized and a level playing field. Ripple's vision from the beginning really has been to apply these technologies in the same way that TCP/IP and HTTP are the technologies underpinning the Internet of Information. These blockchain technologies will be the underpinnings of an Internet of Value, where we have connected devices, we have connected information that will allow payments to flow. And as Norman was describing, if you're a large corporation moving $100 million, that's one thing. If you're a freelancer working in the Philippines doing design work for a company in London and you want to get paid $30 or 30 pesos, Philippine pesos, that's not a transaction that can easily be enabled. And in fact, for the companies that enable that, they require the freelancer to set up an account and they don't actually pay it out until there's roughly 1,000 USD sitting in that account, and then they would pay it out.
So there you have that. And what I want to highlight here is I really believe this, and this is, I'm not selling a used car. The world is on the precipice of a new industrial tech revolution. Interledger protocol and XRP ledger will become the Internet of Value, probably along with a couple other standard protocols adopted as well. They will be just as important as the TCP/IP that you heard Brad Garlinghouse mention, as well as the other protocols that give us the Internet of today. This is extremely important, and I'm going to bring it home in just a second here. Now, according to Dan Moorhead from Pantera Capital here, he says the SEC victory and legal clarity could lead to what he calls a positive black swan. He says everybody ignores black swans until one happens. But if you make me say something, I would say regulatory clarity is the one thing nobody's expecting. We've been an investor in Ripple since day one, and it's like 50-50, right? That Ripple wins, Pantera Capital CEO Dan Moorhead said. But if you come back up here to the top here, it is where he says here, previously identified regulatory clarity as a potential positive black swan in a crypto world. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because I want to take a look at this. Then you have to figure scarcity. Scarcity could be a real issue, and I've been talking about this for a long time, about the idea notion that way back in 2019, 2020, in Q4 of 2019, Ripple stopped selling XRP to programmatic sales to the retail exchanges. They were only selling to ODL partners and participants. So that was that. That meant that no more was going to the exchanges. But we know during that time, we also saw, up until now, we saw Jed McCaleb sell $9 billion of his XRP through his Taco Stand wallet. So now, looking at these numbers and assuming that they may or may not be accurate or loosely accurate wherever they are today, we also have to understand that Ripple has also said in full transparency of their quarterly reports that they also started buying back in the last year or two. They started buying back XRP off of the exchanges that we buy on. I'm going to bring it home now. Stay with me. Now listen, The question I'm really coming to is understanding this. Think about Saudi Arabia joining BRICS in January 1 of 2024. Think and understand the notion that let's say, look, if they abandon the petro agreement, what I see is basically them saying we will be accepting other currencies and not honoring the exclusive deal of only using US dollars. And that means they will still take US dollars. That would mean they would take all kinds of other currencies as well. Well, what you've done is just created the largest demand and friction for XRP to solve. Because if Saudi Arabia comes out after January 1 and announces their full invitation and takes them up on it and does join BRICS officially, which it appears that is going to happen, then what you're going to see is more than likely you're going to see them announce that they will be pulling away from the petro agreement and accepting other currencies. So, to that end, I have to say, that is going to create an enormous demand for Saudi Arabia to settle all of these other currencies, for which a lot of them will be smaller market currencies, which is exactly where Ripple excels. And they could excel very quickly and scale very quickly. Take a listen to this older clip here with Miguel Villas at Baruch College. And shout out to Anders L for this clip.
What I would say is it puts us in a very interesting position with respect to economics. Because, number one, so my job is building liquidity. One of the ways you do that is you lend XRP to people so that they can provide liquidity in markets. If you want to provide a bid and an offer in a market, you have to have cash to buy something. And if you want to sell it, you have to have the thing to sell. Well, the only way you sell something is either own it or you borrow it. In the Bitcoin space, it's really hard to borrow stuff. It's expensive, 10 to 15% annual interest rates, and it's hard to find really chunky loans. With SRP, people can just come to us and be like, hey, I want to borrow some SRP. Not anybody, but really professional market makers. It's something that we can do that nobody else can do, right? In that flow that I described where somebody's buying XRP, moving it and selling it, we can guarantee the rates. So everybody always asks me, well, but you're bridging between two fiat currencies. Like you have to do two hops, there's two spreads you're crossing, the liquidity's not great, it's volatile. No problem. I will pay you the difference. If you're going across this rail and it's expensive, I am very much incentivized to make sure that you do that, because the more liquidity, the more utility, in theory over time, the more valuable XRP will be.
And that's the answer right there, right? If you want to know what the formula is, right, that's the formula. In theory, over time, the more valuable XRP will be, because the reality is, this is what it's all about right here. Let me get it back. The more liquidity, the more utility equals value over time. This is why market cap doesn't add up when you're talking about an asset like XRP. For one, it's not a security. XRP is not a security. So the reality here is we're better off and better suited to look at this asset the way we would look at dollars or the way we would look at oil. Matter of fact, let's stay with oil, right? That brings me back to Saudi Arabia and the possible announcement that they would be offering the ability to settle in other currencies other than exclusively the US dollar. If that happens, as I said, that would quickly create a huge amount of demand and friction for Saudi Arabia to solve all these other currencies coming in to buy oil. This would in turn fuel the growth of BRICS coalition and all the currencies of those countries, because BRICS has made it very apparent that they're going to start with their national dollars before coming out with the BRICS currency itself. We also happen to know that there are deep ties between Ripple and Saudi Arabia as well. The stage is set here to create one of the largest demands and greatest friction points for the bridge asset XRP to solve in the history of mankind. And I'm telling you, as I stand here today, and if they create enough liquidity and utility on that network, the United States may have just found the next thing to underpin the US dollar to remain as the global reserve currency. That's going to do it for me. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. It's just my digital perspectives. I'll catch all of you on the next one.